In November of 2016, Sierra Ronning took the next step in investigating her career field, that of a correctional officer. She sat down with Sergeant Scott Redman, a 10-year veteran of the Manistee County Sheriff's Department and past 3 years as a corrections sergeant. Sergeant Redman gave her the inside story on the career of a correctional officer, starting with an officer's main responsibility.
The main thing that you're responsible for when you're a sergeant slash corrections officer would be the welfare, the well-being, safety, and security of the inmates. It's our job to make sure that when they walk back out the door, that they're better than when they walked in. Whether that be having a talk with them and trying to get them on the straight and narrow, or dealing with people that come in that are alcoholics or drug addicts. We have certain protocol and policy and procedure that we follow to help them get better. Different programs that we offer here in the jail that they can follow up on and to pursue to have a better chance of when they get out the door to be able to get cleaned up and become productive again. The mental stress, is the biggest thing that we deal with. And it's the human factor. You never know from one day to the next what you're running into, what you're walking into, how someone's going to react to something that you say, or, the old saying is, I got up on the wrong side of the bed. Well, the inmates can normally only get off on one side of the bed around here, but, they find a way to still wake up with the wrong attitude occasionally, So you have to be a person that wears many hats to be able to do this job. One day you're father figure, the next day you're Dr. Phil, the next day you're, a pastor, and, you just have to be multi-skilled. I take nothing personally. We have a conversation and I handle it and it's over with. That's difficult at times when especially you have people who want to, talk about a family member or tell you that they want to kill you or, they know where you live. That's tough. You have to let that roll off your shoulders and, press on and there's ways of dealing with that stuff. We do write-ups and different things, tickets that are supposed to meant to suppress that type of behavior. It doesn't always work, but you have to take things with a grain of salt. If you are the type of person that gets hurt easily, and you get offended, and you get really mad and angry when you get offended, it's probably going to be your downfall here.
With the high level of stress and the constant threat of violence, the protection tools for correctional officers are surprisingly simple.
When I first started, we had nothing. We had a pair of pants and a shirt, a belt, and a cuff key. It took me almost a year and a half of being here to finally get a stab vest, which I have on. And now we have a normal type duty belt like most other places do. We carry tasers, the X2s, where you can have multiple shots, handcuffs, pepper spray, and that's pretty much the what we carry here in the jail. Off duty, we're all certified to carry handguns and do transports with the inmates and stuff too. So again, that's and each one of those tools is a big deal. You have to know when and how to use it. And that's again something that takes many hours of training and something not to be taken lightly. Statistics for a corrections officer, they're not the best. There's a lot of stress in this job, and the average lifespan is 57 years old. So, it's tough. It's a tough profession, but you just have to be proud of what you do and realize that, God put you here for a reason, and hopefully it's because you needed to, help out so-and-so, whoever that person is during your career.
While the work is risky, for the right person, it's also rewarding. Sergeant Redman offered his perspective for those who accept the risk and want to get started.
it just depends on what type of work you want to do, how big a facility you want to work in. But I would suggest to start close to home, local facility. And the reason I say close to home is because in this line of work, the better support system you have at home, the better you will be able to succeed. If you don't have a good support system at home, somebody that you can talk to about things that happen, if you don't have that, it makes it real difficult. There's people that can survive without it. They don't, they don't care. They don't want to talk about work when they're not at work, whatnot. But there are people who need to get things off their chest.
While the officers need to vent to relieve stress, what is the biggest complaint Sergeant Redman hears from the inmates?
In this jail, since it's a smaller facility, housing is always a big deal. Especially with the female inmates, they seem to be the most difficult to place. You get 3, 4, 5, 8, 9. It becomes more difficult for them to find a way to get along. I've seen, we have a 10 bed female addition here on the jail, and we've had upwards of 13 in there before, and I've seen 13 girls get along like they're all family members, and then I've seen 5 girls in there that can't get along for more than 2 hours. So that makes it real difficult when you're dealing with people who don't want to get along or don't want to bury the hatchet, and the only thing they want to happen is to be removed from the situation. And so, going back to my small facility comment, that makes it real tough here. Finding beds and places to put people. It's real difficult.
And while the inmates may fail to get along, the officers also run the risk of failure.
If they fail in this line of work, it's because you failed to listen. With advice that your trainer's trying to give you. This is the way I want you to do it, and then they turn around and do it the exact opposite time and time and time again. That's one way to fail. The other way to fail is to fail yourself. To not want to put out enough effort to do things. It's not all about coming in here and sitting in a chair and watching cameras anymore. It's especially in a smaller facility. You're up and moving around a good portion of the night. There's not a lot of downtime. Bigger facility, like the Oaks Correctional Facility, where there's 100, 150 officers on a shift. Each person is assigned to a station. That's your job. That's what you do. You sit here, you watch this camera. You open that door. Here, we book people in, we release people, we do all the bond procedures, we collect all the money, we do classifications and move people around the jail. We hand out all the breakfast trays, the lunch trays, the dinner trays, all the cleaning that happens in here. We do everything from A to Z. So county facility like this that's a lot smaller, there's a lot more stuff to learn in a shorter amount of time. It's not so much the jail staff who has the hardest job, it's the inmates. Because you walk in the door and your rights are stripped from you, a lot of them, and you're stuck here against your will, in a little room, or stuck with a bunch of pig pen guys that, don't care about hygiene and cleaning themselves. And it's the inmates that have the real job, the real hard job. So you have to understand that, be flexible, and let things roll off your shoulders. That's a big deal. The biggest thing is fair, firm, and consistent in this job. Treat people the same way that you'd want to be treated. If you have Joe Blow coming through the door and you're yelling and screaming at him, and you're probably going to get it back. But if you got Joe Blow coming through the door and you treat him with a great amount of respect, and surprise him, make him be surprised at how nice you can be. Just because you wear a badge and carry a taser doesn't mean that you're Mr. Tuffy. there's always someone walking through the door who can, probably outdo you at some point in your career. So treat people with respect, and that'll go a long ways. It can make a 12-hour shift miserable or a 12-hour shift somewhat enjoyable.
In treating people with dignity and respect, Sierra asked how women and people of color are treated by their fellow officers and by inmates. The response was encouraging.
We all get along real well, and we're a pretty tight-knit group here. There's only 13 of us that run this facility. So, you're part of something pretty special, because there's only 13 people in the county that can say that I work at the jail. It's not like, there's hundreds of people that work at the Oaks or work at the other plants in town. There's 13 of us here that get to say that we're here, and, that you're proud to represent the Sheriff's Department in Manistee County.
The interview concluded with Sergeant Redman offering his advice to those considering a career as a correctional officer.
Do your homework, know what you're getting into. Don't waste all your money and time on, schooling, and then walk into the job and go, man, this is nothing like they taught me. And, this sucks. I'm out of here. Know what you're getting into. And that way you're not culture shocked when you, encounter something, or you hear something, or you see something. Because you're going to see a lot. The longer you're into the field, the more things you see. From broken arms, broken noses, people in all states of undress. I mean, it's, when they come in and they're high and they're on drugs and things, and they're not thinking right, well, you're going to see some stuff. I mean, and that's just the name of the game. That's what we do, and you have to be able to be prepared for that type of thing. And not everybody tells you that. It's a very difficult part of the job they have to deal with.